So this is the LG QNED 91. This is the 4K Mini LED version. Now we've been lucky enough to get hold of both the 75-inch version, which is this, and also the 65-inch version, which is this. And in this video, we're going to show you everything that's good and maybe some not so about these TVs. Don't forget to hit the red button to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up and click the notification bell to get my next video first. So I've broken this down into different sections. You can click on the different chapters via the link in the description, and also you can check out the product itself by clicking on the product link. It will also therefore give you the latest price in your location depending on when you're watching this video. Just for full disclosure, LG have sent both of these TVs to me. They've not asked me to say anything good or bad about them, and all of the views expressed within this video will be my genuine own thoughts. So both of these TVs feature LG's QNED Mini LED technology, which is effectively quantum dot nanocell technology meeting Mini LED. And effectively what that's going to do is give you incredible brightness, but also with the full array local dimming, it's going to give you the best possible LCD blacks and the best possible contrast. That's the idea anyway. And if you've watched my unboxing and first impressions, you'll know I was pretty impressed. If you're thinking of putting this on the stand, then do be aware that the 75-inch version is pretty big, and it is noticeably protruding quite a way out from the front of the TV. It needs to do that, obviously, because of the size of this TV. So that is why for the 75-inch version, I definitely think it's better to wall mount it. However, there are no such problems on the 65-inch version. In fact, I actually prefer it on the stand. I think it looks absolutely excellent whether the TV is on or off. It really does look sleek and really quite stylish. Which do you prefer, wall mounted or stand? One of the first things I look at on the design of the TV are the bezels around the edge. With these TVs, they're slightly thicker at the bottom, and then they're pretty thin around the side and the top. They're certainly not intrusive, and you're not going to notice them. One thing that you might notice is the weight. These TVs aren't light. The 65-inch version without the stand is 26.7 kilos, and the 75-inch version without the stand is a whopping 36.2 kilos. So if you are going to wall mount it, make sure you've got a wall mount strong enough to take the weight. You don't want that falling off. Now, if you are umming and ahhing between the 65 and 75-inch versions, well, you'll be pleased to know that all of the connections and all of the specs are exactly the same on both TVs. The only thing that's going to be different is pixel density, which I'll come on to a little bit later. So the connections, you get two 2.1 HDMI ports. One of those has to be the eARC port for the enhanced audio return channel. So do bear that in mind if you've got multiple consoles or a high-end gaming PC. There are three 2.0 USB ports and one network port. Both of these TVs have a power cable which is fixed and in place, and it measures 1.5 meters in length. I really do wish LG would use a detachable power cable. What's your thoughts on that, guys? Both TVs have a viewing angle of 178 degrees and a speaker output of 40 watts. The refresh rate is 120 Hz, and they both have the same processor, which is the A7 Generation 4. The QNED 91 runs WebOS 6.0, which is okay. It's not my favourite platform, but it is okay. It's certainly not the worst out there. You can do things like change it around and customize it to your heart's content, although it would be good to be able to just have your apps coming up on the screen just on their own and your connections. That would be my preference. I don't know about you guys, but do you use all those other functions? If you want to rearrange the order of the apps, then you can do this manually by dragging them from one side to the other, and you can position them in the order that you choose. Or the thing which I think is good is the intelligent edit, which basically just remembers which apps you use the most, and it will organize those right at the start. So that can be the best way for most people. There is also easy access to your connections just by going down, and again you can go into the home dashboard where you can connect this to other smart devices as well, but I won't cover that in this video. Do you do that though, guys? Do you have your TV connected to other devices, and do you operate those devices via your TV? One of the things that I do like is the fact that you can turn off the home promotion, so it's a little bit of an advert remover. It doesn't push what LG want you to push, and so therefore you can just have that turned off, and that's simple to do within the settings. Now, the majority of people won't calibrate their TV, so the settings that I'm going to give you today are pre my calibration. Now, the good news is with these new TVs is that they all come with some great settings built in. Now, my preference for HDR mode on this TV was without a doubt filmmaker mode. It was definitely one of the best modes out there, and I found that it was certainly the case on the 65-inch. However, ISF Bright and ISF Dark were also pretty good on the 75-inch. I don't know why, but I did notice that there seemed to be a difference. That may have been the fact that my 75-inch TV is in the bright room, whereas this 65-inch version is in my studio, which is a lot darker. There are different sound modes which you can do, but again, I don't recommend going with the sound on the TV. If you want to have that full cinematic experience, definitely go for a soundbar or a surround sound system. Now, having looked at some of the newer TVs with the newer processors, I was a little bit worried whether the upscaling of standard content was going to be that good, and I'm pleased to report that in most cases it was fine. I did find that watching standard definition and just standard cable sports was a little bit ropey at times. However, for the majority of TV watching, if you're in filmmaker mode, ISF Bright or ISF Dark, depending on your room, you will get probably the best picture that you can hope for, and it delivers a crisp image, and I thought it did a really good job. Now, I found on the 65-inch version, it did look a little bit oversaturated, but again, that might be the fact that I'm in a dark room and so therefore that is accentuated. I didn't have the same issue on the 75-inch. One idea that I recommend to everybody if you are going to be changing TV settings is to get a scene where you've got somebody's skin tone, because that can be the easiest way for you trying to track what's natural and what's not. It's all very well doing it in those hero shots which come from the manufacturers, but this is likely to be your everyday watching. So go through the different settings on these modes, and one of the things that you have to turn off definitely straight away is the eco mode, because it just will not give you the brightest or the most accurate image. The extra brightness that you get because this is mini LEDs means that in daylight it handles reflections really well in brighter scenes. Obviously, you still have to be aware that in darker, very dark scenes like this from Stranger Things, then you are still going to get some reflections, but that is going to be the same on any TV out there. The thing that really impressed me with these TVs is that when it is dark and you're watching anything on this TV, it gives an almost OLED type feel to it. Because the brightness is so bright, the fact that you've got that full array local dimming means that the blacks do get pretty dark, and therefore the contrast, although it's not going to be quite as good as OLED, the difference is still brilliant, and so therefore it gives that immersion and that OLED type feel, even though this is just mini LED. It really is very impressive. Another benefit of a mini LED TV is the fact that you're not going to get those dark areas when you go off to an angle. In fact, this TV stays really bright even at the most extreme angles. There's almost no difference from being face on. Obviously, when you go around to the side, you're more prone to a few reflections, but as you can see in terms of the TV brightness, it looks absolutely brilliant. LCD TVs can be prone to dirty screen effect. On these two TVs, they're both identical models, QNED 91, yet the 65-inch one has some dirty screen effect around the edges, but the 75-inch one is completely clear. I therefore definitely recommend you run my test that I created. I'll leave a link in the description so that you can check out your TV yourself. Definitely worth doing this if you've just bought a new TV to check the quality of the panel. So if you are considering buying a new TV but you're not sure whether to buy 65 or 75 inch, another thing to look at is the pixel density and how well that TV does in the larger sizes. There are some brands out there that when they go bigger, the picture just goes very blurry. Now on this TV, it's not too bad at all. On the left is the 75-inch version, on the right is the 65-inch version. Now, I definitely think that you can see a difference in the sharpness. The pixel density on the 65-inch version is definitely a bit better, but it's not actually as much as I thought it would be. If you are picking up some differences within the colors, then that's because they're on slightly different settings. The one on the left has been calibrated and the one on the right hasn't. This test isn't about getting the identical colors. This test is just about the sharpness of the image. When it came to local dimming, these TVs, the QNED 91s, do have full array local dimming, and they do produce a pretty good result. The algorithm is pretty good. However, it does require some fiddling with, because depending on whether you're playing SDR content, HDR content, or gaming, you do have to change the settings. In SDR content, we thought that the low setting was the best. We found that the medium and high were just a little bit too aggressive in the darker scenes so that you lost detail, and the highlights were blown out a little bit. And in HDR content, content, we found that medium was the best. Low made almost no difference at all, and medium was definitely the best choice to retain the detail in the darker scenes. However, the highlights were definitely not blown out at all, so you get good blacks and you get the balance of both worlds. So low setting for SDR, medium setting for HDR. When it came to gaming, we found that we got different results depending on different games that we were playing. Certainly we were playing the darker scene games like this that you can see here. The low setting was definitely better because you still retained the detail in the darker scenes, the black levels were still pretty good, and the highlights weren't blown out at all. Occasionally, if we went into medium, then that just seemed a little bit too aggressive in darker games. However, if you're playing a game like FIFA, for instance, then medium was the right setting. So it really depends on whether you can be bothered to go in and keep on changing things. Certainly, high is just too aggressive. You lose too much detail in the dark scenes, and the contrast there is that the highlights do tend to be blown out a little bit, and so therefore it just doesn't look brilliant. But I'd recommend either medium or low, depending on the content that you're playing. Certainly for me, I play a mixture of stuff, so I'll probably just leave it on low. There was no problem at all with motion on this TV and no sign of jittering. However, there were definitely signs of blooming. Now, it wasn't the worst that I've seen, and in these images, because of the ISO on the camera, it is a little bit worse than what you see in reality. But certainly when we look at the subtitle test now, you'll notice that it does seem to give a little bit of a bloom. Now, it's not as noticeable as what this is showing on the screen, but definitely it is visible. For gaming, this is one of the best LCD TVs that we've tested. It supports 4K at 120Hz, and we found that there was no evidence of any tearing or any stuttering no matter what we played. It was an absolute joy. With a response time of around 13 milliseconds as well, you're not going to have any issues with delay. The QNED 91 does support variable refresh rate and auto low latency mode, although it doesn't have the more premium features of FreeSync and G-Sync. So that's something for you to bear in mind. You may need to go for the next model up. The TVs also have the fairly new feature, which is Game Optimizer. This is where you can go in and change some settings within the game, and you don't have to bother with the full menu system. But overall, the gaming experience is an absolute joy. It really is immersive, especially on that larger 75-inch TV. It is just stunning. I don't think most people will notice any problems with it at all. The images look crisp and fantastic. As I said earlier, there is no evidence of any tearing, any stutter, any delay, and so therefore it's exactly what you want from gaming. So for gamers out there, this is one for you to consider. So in summary guys, who's this TV for? Well, this is the TV for everybody. Now, I don't mean to say it's the best TV for everybody, but certainly if you are watching normal TV content, SDR, HDR, movies, gaming, then this does a very good job of all of those things. No, it's not the best at every single one of them, but as a package and for the price that this TV is at the moment, it's definitely worth considering. I think it looks good, the picture quality is excellent, and it gives you a full immersive experience. It's definitely one that I would consider, and it's one that you should consider also. What's your thoughts? Let me know in the comments as to what you think on these mini LED TVs, the QNED 91. Thank you so much for watching this video, my friends. Be sure to make a comment and let me know your thoughts, and I look forward to seeing you on the next.